How to create better sprint goals.
Hi folks, welcome back to the Everyday Agile YouTube channel with me, Jack Hughes.
If you're an organisation looking to experiment with agile ways of working, it's probably a good idea to know where to start.
What is Agile methodology? Agile with a capital A was based on 4 values, 12 principles.
We've got to where we are by having those values and principles, practices that we've learned over time in place.
Hi everyone, Jack here from Everyday Agile, and in this video I'm going to be showing you how to create better sprint goals. Creating decent sprint goals isn't easy. Whether you're a product owner who may be dreaming up these ideas, or a scrum master or a team member who is trying to help. So hopefully some of these tips will help you in your next sprint planning. So first and foremost, let's have a look what the good book says. And by good book, I of course mean the 2020 version of the Scrum Guide. It's important to remember that the sprint goal is one of the 2 outcomes from sprint planning. The 2 outcomes from sprint planning are a sprint goal and a sprint backlog. There are 3 topics to be discussed in sprint planning. 1, why is this sprint valuable? Topic 2, what can be done this sprint? And topic 3, how will this chosen work get done? Now, if you're a product owner, you do have a responsibility to start with the end in mind. And of course, it is a collaborative effort to come up with the sprint goal, but as the product owner, you may want to have a few ideas in your back pocket. Topic 1, why is this sprint valuable? The product owner proposes how the product could increase the value and utility in the current sprint. The whole Scrum team then collaborates to define a sprint goal that communicates why the sprint is valuable to stakeholders. The sprint goal must be finalised prior to the end of sprint planning. So just to reiterate, the conversation around the sprint goal is a team effort. But I think the product owner should have a few ideas ready to go. Even if those ideas don't come to fruition, you should be thinking about them anyway. Now, some of you may already know, but some of the elements in the Scrum framework are quite binary, and the sprint goal is definitely one of those elements. So what do I mean by that? Well, you either achieve the sprint goal as a team or you don't. The Scrum framework doesn't really allow for I've done it but. I've done it but I'm waiting for Jeff to review my code. I've done it but X, Y or Z. We've either achieved the goal or we haven't. Now this can be a struggle for some teams, especially if they're not in the product domain. So on to some of the benefits of having clear sprint goals. One of the main ones being, it's going to promote that self-management within the team. If they have a clear goal, they can self-manage around that. Some people may not see this as a benefit, but I personally do. And it goes back to that binary element. It is clear what we have achieved if we achieve that goal. There's no hiding. We either win or we learn. So having a clear sprint goal can really help that. One of the other benefits is that it does offer some flexibility, which contradicts what I've just said. But if you think about the sprint goal being the commitment and the sprint backlog being the forecast of work to meet the goal, that means the sprint backlog can change throughout the sprint. Some people still believe that the sprint backlog has to be static. That is incorrect. The sprint backlog can change as long as it doesn't impact the sprint goal in a negative way. Having a clear sprint goal can help the team members focus within a sprint. It can help them prioritize what is important and what is essential. As I said before, creating sprint goals isn't easy, and they do come with some very specific challenges, such as the sprint goal being too big and ending up just being a to-do list of tickets or items on the backlog. We want to achieve ticket 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 10, 11. That isn't a goal, that's a to-do list. Another challenge teams face is when the sprint goal is too vague, meaning it's not clear when X, Y or Z has been achieved. Try not to leave too much room for ambiguity when creating those sprint goals. The team not paying attention to the sprint goal throughout the sprint is another common problem. Now, I'm not saying ram it down their throats every single hour of every single day of the sprint, but having it visible and potentially reminding the team of what the goal is could be an antidote to that problem. And finally, for this video anyway, if the sprint goal doesn't feel meaningful, the team are not going to buy into it, which I admit can be quite difficult depending on the environment you are in. And I think it would be naive for me to say that every sprint goal is going to feel meaningful. It's probably not, but keeping it in mind may help when formulating the sprint goals during sprint planning. So let's look at some examples of what good sprint goals look like. Many of you, I'm sure, have either interacted or read or either been on training facilitated by the Liberators. Now, Christian has put together some examples of real sprint goals on a product they were working on. I'll link the article in the comments. In the article, he shares the background, he shares the product and development strategy. But what we're interested in today are these very clear sprint goals. As you can see here, set up deployment pipeline and release an empty site to production. Very clear, very specific. As we scroll down into sprint 2, where the goal was to show top selling products on the homepage. Again, very specific, very easy to stand behind and measure. And as we go into sprint 3, a visitor can order a product. I think this is a really good example of the team having the flexibility to meet that goal with the product backlog items they pull in to the sprint backlog. As we move into sprint 4, extend the product catalog to more products. Again, a really good example of giving the team the flexibility to meet the outcome. So now we've looked at some examples, there are also a number of templates that may aid you in your next sprint planning. So I came across this really solid resource in the form of a blog post that I will link in the description below, which has 5 different templates you could experiment with. So this blog is titled How to Write and Use a Sprint Goal with 5 Templates. What we're going to focus on today are the sprint goal templates for you to experiment with or try out in the future, or at least think about. The blog post itself goes into a lot of detail around each one, but as a quick summary, it's outlined in this infographic. So you've got the scrum.org template, where it focuses on the outcome, the impact to the customer, and the event. And then we've got Roman Pitchler's template that talks about the goal, the method, and the metrics. We've got something called Feature Advantage Benefit, where we talk about the feature that is going to be produced, the advantage and the benefit to the customer. You could use something like a newspaper headline to try and make it short, snappy, and smart. And finally, you could think about limiting your sprint goal to a tweet's length to try and make it short, sharp, and succinct. So here are some things to keep in mind. Make the sprint goal visible. And if you can't do that, no matter what your accountability is within the Scrum framework, refer to it at least a couple of times a week during the daily Scrum to remind the team of the outcome they are trying to achieve. Think about making it business and user focused where possible. Remember that the sprint goal doesn't mean you can't do anything else during the sprint. It's the thing the team are going to stand behind at the end of the sprint, along with all the other good stuff they have been up to. A list of sprint backlog items is not a goal. It's a list. So try and make the sprint goal as specific as possible. If you enjoyed this video, it would mean the world if you liked and subscribed, and I'll see you next time.